there's a standard that, in my opinion, and I think we all agree on that, there's a standard that McDermott has brought to Buffalo, and that's a winning mentality. That's a playoff caliber team that is defending the dirt, all the mantras, all the sayings that Coach McDermott has brought to Buffalo. Now, there's going to be some pressure on McDermott. And Joe, I want you to jump on this. How much pressure is there going to be on McDermott coming into this year, knowing full well what the Dolphins are doing, what the Jets have done with new coaching, and they're trying to turn things around, and Bill Belichick saying, I will not have a losing season again. I need to bring that. What is it that McDermott has to now do to keep his team on top and making sure that their mind frame is legit?
Can you hear Sean McDermott right now saying, pressure is a privilege, right? And he's going to say something like that here in one of these press conferences coming up. Obviously, the bar's high, right? I mean, this is an AFC championship team from a year ago, and I really appreciate Brandon Beane's comments in the year-end presser when he said, we're not a Super Bowl team. It leads you to know and understand that the Bills know that they're not done doing what they need to do to their roster and their overall football operation to get to the big game. And I think everything that we've seen from this regime since they took charge in 2017 has been incremental progress. And there's not a whole lot, there's not much further to go, guys. I mean, they were a game away from playing in the Super Bowl. And so I think that they have enough self-awareness to know that exactly the things that you talked about, that there's tons of draft capital. When you look at the Jets and Dolphins, tons of cap space with all of those teams. They're better, right? They're improved football teams. But now it's about taking the role of being the hunted, right? The Bills have been the hunter for a long time. All right, now they're the hunted. Everyone's going to give them their best shot. They want to knock off the Bills at the top of the AFC East, and Sean McDermott's aware of that. And I think these are the times, and I say this a lot as I work through game weeks on Locked On Bills, and we talk about the opponents that are coming up and some of the challenges, and you might get concerned about it. And I say all the time, like, these are the moments that I'm really glad that Sean McDermott's the leader for this football team, because he's the type of guy that is going to have the right messaging, that's going to keep the guys disciplined and focused on the task at hand. And he's proven that. The incremental improvements have been there. And so I think this goes back to trusting the leadership, the self-awareness that they've already shown through their messaging, and then adding some wrinkles. And maybe that's more 12 personnel on offense. Maybe that's more versatility with their sub packages on defense. But, I think that self-awareness, the leadership, and the fact that they're being chased right now puts them at a position of strength to be more dynamic and switch things up in terms of developing their operation to stay at the top.
I really like that. You said that there's the fact that they're being hunted allows them to now dial even further and dig your heels in, because now they're coming. So that's going to be the message that McDermott is going to be lamenting onto these guys. So Z-Bot, when you're looking at this offensive side of the ball, you're looking at the defensive side of the ball, you're looking at special teams, and you're looking at all these position groups. Is there a position group that worries you? Joe, I'm going to go right to you afterwards. But is there a position group, Z-Bot, that worries you a little bit, where you're like, one player goes down in that position group, we are in the doghouse. We're in problems. What position group is sitting at the top for you right now?
Well, for starters, Joe, get pressure as a privilege patented right now. That seems like the most McDermott-ism ever. I could already see them switching out the championship caliber decals on the wall to pressure as a privilege before the season started. That was perfect. It's D-line. I think that's pretty obvious. I mean, we saw what wound up being the main Achilles heel for the Bills in the AFC Championship. They couldn't get near Mahomes, no matter what the Chiefs threw at him, no matter what they did on defense. It was not working. 2 weeks later in the Super Bowl, we saw what can happen to even the greats like Mahomes when they're faced against elite D-line talent. He ran for 500 yards behind the line of scrimmage in that game. 2 weeks prior against the Bills, he looked like Patrick Mahomes. It was a completely different team from the Bills to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bills right now just feel like they're a star-powered edge player away from really being a complete team. It feels like that one piece that would really bring them over the top. The problem was in the offseason here. It's just too expensive. That position is getting up there it's the quarterback of the defensive side of the ball. It's a really expensive position. The Bills didn't have the money to spend in free agency, but it's clearly the position right now that they need if they want to get up to that level. It's what won the Bucs the Super Bowl. Yes, Tom Brady was the biggest factor and the biggest storyline. That defensive performance by the Bucs in the Super Bowl was one of the greatest I have ever seen, and it started right up there at the line. And I think right now, if I were to pick one specific area that visibly to just about anybody needs to be addressed, it's the line. And I think when you're talking about that position, it's what separates the Bills from the top 5 teams in the NFL conversation to about the top 2 or 3 teams in the NFL conversation.
So you want to address, you feel like our weakest position group is the D line. And I didn't anticipate you saying that. Keep that same energy, because now I'm going to go down to the draft guru himself. There he is. What position group worries you, where you're like, I don't know, fam. If something happens in that position group and somebody goes down, it's a wrap?
Well, first of all, if I can give credit to Billie Jean King, she has that quote. She wrote a book called Pressure is a Privilege, former #1 tennis player in the world. And I think she won 39 Grand Slams. Yeah, 39 Grand Slam titles. So she's the one that gets credit for that. Pressure is a privilege. Yeah. The way that you frame that question, Rico, it leads me to want to talk about positions that I think lack depth. And then if the primary starter went down, you would get real nervous. And I think the low-hanging fruit is quarterback, even with Mitchell Trubisky in the mix. I mean, it's a different football team without Josh Allen. The position group that I think lacks the most depth right now is safety. And I know that we look at safety as a position of strength with Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde. That's a top 3 safety duo in the NFL. But that security blanket of Dean Marlowe, he's unsigned right now. Now, I expect at some point he'll be back. But until that happens, I'm going to be nervous about safety depth, where your primary backup right now is Jaquan Johnson, a third-year player out of the University of Miami, who's a good football player in terms of, like, you like him in as a depth player, special teams. But as a primary starter, when safeties are so critical to your defense and how you disguise coverages and how you affect the way that quarterbacks survey your defense and the deep throws that Poyer and Hyde take away, I would be real nervous right now with the way that depth chart stacks up at safety, with Jaquan Johnson as the primary backup and Josh Thomas as the 4th safety right now. Listen
when I tell you this. I'm smiling. I'm geeked, because not a whole lot of people are talking about the safety position. It's something that I've glanced over, not one that I was going to mention, but the safety position is something that I feel that is necessary. And we tried to address that last year with Kyle Duggar. I think we were interested in Kyle Duggar because that way he almost masked our depth at linebacker, and he can play a little bit of depth. We didn't get that opportunity to have that, right? So we've been kind of looking around to fill that role. Maybe this draft is where we do it. Where we do it is a whole nother ballgame. For me, sir, it is the O-line. And I'm not beaming. I'm not beaming with excitement about my O-line. We've been shuffling this O-line for too long, in my opinion, where we feel one guy goes down, we're not sure about this guy. I mean, next year we go in and Darrell Williams goes down, right? Now we're sitting here like, okay, who do we put at right tackle? Do we put Cordy Ford back at right tackle? No, don't do that. Our center goes down. Now John Feliciano moves over. We just don't have enough depth, in my opinion, with enough talent to move there. Ryan Bates, lovely piece, nice guy. I think he'd do well, but just not that guy. So for me, the interior line is what I'm looking forward to. Now, keeping that energy, I need to play a clip for you, sir. You don't know what clip is coming up, and I want your live reaction as to how you feel about it.
Several evaluators about why Cody Ford had fallen from the first round to the second round. The reason is because in 2017, he played at about 25 pounds over the weight he did in 2018. So yes, he played well this year. The tape from 2 years ago was really bad. Plus teams thought he was a lot better than he actually was. Some attitude questions there too. That's maybe why he fell.
So I don't know if you heard that all the way through. So I want you're processing now. As you process, here's where I jump in. I want Cody Ford to succeed. In my opinion, it might be harsh, but I feel like he's a borderline bust. It might be too soon for me to label him that. I know that. That's why I was looking for film online. It's okay. Let me try to get myself into it. And then I came across that clip. Then I realized, like, hold on a second. He had 1 year of right tackle. He did well. He had a couple years at guard, or excuse me, interior line, but he had also a broken fibula. So there was not much time, right? Raw prospect, if you will. And I could be wrong. I'm no draft guy. So when I see this clip and I look at what's happening right now, then I'm like, a pause for concern. But at the end of the day, you still have to give this guy an opportunity because he hasn't had a full opportunity yet to really anchor in a position. So what say you on that clip and then on the topic of Cody Ford?
Well, as far as that clip goes, I mean, Rappaport citing bad tape 2 years prior to being drafted in weight issues. As far as I understand, the weight stuff hasn't been a problem with the Bills. We would know, I think. We certainly did with AJ Epinesa. But as far as Cody Ford goes, it certainly sounds like the team loves him. I mean, you listen to Brandon Beane, he all but said he would be surprised if Cody Ford wasn't one of their starting offensive linemen this year. And from a talent perspective, I certainly get that. I think it's okay to simultaneously say, I'm optimistic about Cody Ford and his ability to be a good starter at left guard, while at the same time saying, I'm nervous because I don't think we've really learned anything about Cody Ford. We know that he's not going to be a right tackle. That's not going to be his natural spot. So he kicks inside the guard this past year. And I don't think we've seen a large enough sample size to really make hard statements about who he is in the NFL at this point. It's kind of concerning entering year 3, especially when we know he played injured as a rookie at right tackle, not his best position. And last year he got, a season-ending injury, and we only saw him for, a limited amount of games. So I don't think we know much about Cody Ford. And this is a critical year for him to change that narrative, to entrench himself as the starting left guard for this football team, or push the panic button and realize that you got to find a different direction here.
And I hope it really is the first comment you made, that he comes in and dials in and puts it together. What a disappointment it would be for pushing the panic button and now trying to figure out what we're going to do and trying to, would you say, replace Cody Ford when we traded up for him in the second round.